Thanks for tuning in. This is Thomper Thumpin', and in this video I want to quickly demonstrate how I use the Jackery Explorer 5000 Plus solar generator, or a battery electric generator, whatever you want to call it, instead of a traditional gasoline powered generator, power not only my 30 amp camper that you see behind me there, but also our 240 volt well on our off-grid remote property. So I basically just want to run through my reasoning why I'm switching to one of these silent solar generators in place of the gasoline generators. I am not anti-gas generator at all. It's just a fun, kind of unique, different way to power off-grid campsites. Not everybody's use case is going to be the same, so some people might find this as an attractive option and some might not. So before diving into a bunch of different demonstrations using this on the off-grid setup with the camper here, I just want to explain some of the reasons real quick. So the reason I went with one of these big, powerful solar generators, I chose Jackery here in this case, but there's other pretty equivalent offerings from Blue Eddy, EcoFlow, and Anchor, of course, and then many other brands, but those are your four primary name brands that are pretty reliable and really well built. The first reason is size and mobility. As you can see, it's not much different in size from a traditional gasoline generator. It comes with four wheels, it has a suitcase handle, and then additionally you can lay this thing down on its side. You can hang it from the ceiling upside down and still use it if you want to. Obviously no one's ever going to do that, but they're very mobile and don't take up too much space for what these things can do. One of the reasons I specifically went with the Jackery Explorer 5000 Plus is the price. The other equivalent models from the other brands that I just mentioned are in the same ballpark, but the Jackery 5000 gives a little bit more output capacity, a little bit more battery capacity, and for about $200 to $300 cheaper than some of that competition too. So within its competition, it is priced the best, but prices change all the time. So one of the primary reasons to get a solar generator over a gasoline powered generator is that they are essentially silent. I run this thing inside the camper and I run the cord down through a hatch to the outside of the camper where I plug into shore power. And I can run that during a rainstorm. I can run it during a nice, beautiful, silent night out here in the mountains of West Virginia. And you can actually hear the rain, you can hear the birds, you can hear the breeze through the trees, and you don't have any hum in the background. If you are powering a very, very high load, you will hear the fans kick on, but they are way quieter than any gasoline generator out there. Jackery, if you're watching, I would love to try out your expansion battery packs to get even that much more runtime. That's the beautiful thing about these solar generators. Most of them have expansion battery packs that you can easily plug and play and just really prolong your runtime. So I couldn't afford that at the time of purchase. They are kind of expensive and they are kind of heavy, something to consider. So yeah, Jackery, I'd love to try out your expansion battery pack, and I would also love to try out the solar panels that are compatible with this unit as well. I bought this Jackery from Amazon, straight from Jackery's Amazon store. So I will have my affiliate link down in the description below. If you're interested in buying one, please use the link. It doesn't cost you any extra money, and I get a little commission from it. So you can also rest assured too that you're buying straight from Jackery. So Amazon's great return policies and just ease of purchase make this kind of a no-brainer getting it through Amazon, in my opinion. So these are two terrific options to power your camper, and going one over the other, you're going to be trading off. There's pros and cons to each. I want to run through a couple of those pros and cons, do a real good comparison between a couple of these units, and then we'll get into demonstrations, I promise. When I bought mine through Amazon, straight from Jackery, I paid approximately $2,900, all included, shipped to my door. Now that sounds like a lot, but you have to realize that you're comparing it to a gasoline generator that has equal capacity. This Predator 5000 doesn't even come close to the capabilities that this thing has. So some of the other competition, like I mentioned, Blue Eddy, EcoFlow, Anchor, they also offer similarly sized and capable units in that similar price range, but Jackery is the cheapest. So don't ever pay full retail price. These things are basically always on sale, but if you keep an eye on them, you can get them for pretty cheap. So these gasoline generators vary wildly in price. The equivalent output models from Predator, I think it's like the 9000 or the 9500, that's going to be about $2,300, so just a few $100s cheaper than the Jackery 5000. And the Honda version that has similar output to the Jackery, that's going to run approximately $4,500. So as I stated before, this Jackery 5000 has a sustained output of 7,200 watts. You can run regular 120 volt or 240 volt. So it really opens up a lot of different opportunities on what you can actually run with this thing. Jackery's claimed surge is right around like 1,440 watts, give or take. I haven't tested that myself, I probably won't ever, but some of the other YouTube channels that have reviewed these claim that the realistic surge is closer to about 10,000 to 11,000 watts. You know, your results may vary. It just depends on how you're using it. Weight and mobility are a big concern for many potential buyers. Weight really depends on the size and capability of either a gasoline or solar generator, but the gasoline counterparts tend to be way heavier. In fact, almost double the weight compared to their solar generator counterparts. Weight directly contributes to mobility. I can pretty easily drag this 134 pound Jackery up this toy hauler ramp, but I would need help with a Predator 9500 gasoline generator, which weighs in at 245 pounds. The lighter the better, even with these large wheels. A second major advantage of the solar generators is that they can be stored standing up on their sides or in any other way because there's no fluids to leak out. For example, this Predator 5000, capable of about half the output power, weighs essentially the same once full of gasoline. And it's equally as difficult to move around on wheels and a little bit harder to move around by hand. So these modern day gasoline generators are pretty easy to maintain. They've got a lot of different access panels, and as long as you stay up on oil filter changes, air filter changes, and you're using non-ethylene gas and you make sure to not flood the thing or keep a spare spark plug on you, yeah, they're pretty straightforward to maintain. And a lot of people get a solid several hundred or even thousands of hours on gasoline generators, so they can be very reliable. Maintenance on these solar generators is basically non-existent. They're lithium iron phosphate batteries, which is an extremely safe battery technology, so you can rest easy storing them inside, leaving them in a cabin, or taking them with you inside your RV. No issues there. And really just, if you're going to store it for a long period of time, several months, just top off the battery and you're good to go. One of the things that you could run into is potential like software glitches. So if the electronics inside this thing fail, well, then you got a paperweight. But you know, if your piston seizes up on a gas generator, you've got a paperweight. So that's why I choose to buy from one of the more reputable brands too. You got a better chance of this thing lasting 10 plus years. Speaking of which, the batteries in these things, they're rated at like 10 years, they'll still have an 80% capacity. But since these have been out, studies are showing that the battery capacity life is actually much better than a lot of those claims. So you can run this thing 100% to 0% on a daily basis for 10, 15 years, and it'll still have essentially 70% capacity or so. So when it comes to recharging or refilling the tanks, there's pros and cons to each. With this gasoline generator, you can refill this, what is it, I think about a 3.8, 4-gallon tank, whatever it is. You can fill it up in a matter of seconds, essentially. Pour the gas in, boom, you've got another 10, 20, 30 hours of runtime. With these, oh yeah, make sure you use non-ethanol gas. I always try to do that. The only problem you might run into with these gasoline generators too is at altitude. You might have to rejet the carburetor in this thing. If you're up in the Rockies or if you're exploring out west at some of those higher altitudes, it might not run right for you. So a lot of them do come with rejet kits, but you know, you got to take it apart, grab the carb, put the new jets in. It's kind of a pain in the butt if you are exploring all the United States, but if you're just hanging out on the East Coast, you don't ever have to do that. Recharging these things, well, there's a bunch of different methods you can use. You can charge one off of a gasoline generator. You can charge it off of your AC wall plug. You can use solar, of course. In fact, this unit, you can pump in something like up to 4,000 watts of solar and charge it in just a little bit over an hour from 0 to full. So there's many different ways to charge these things. Obviously going to be a lot slower than just refilling with gasoline. But you don't necessarily have to bring gas with you. Final note on kind of maintenance and reliability. With gasoline generators, a lot of DIYers can maintain these or even fix them on their own. It's just a simple combination of spark, fuel, and air. So as long as you can address all those three issues, you can fix these on the fly or in a small engine shop. Fixing one of these things, if it breaks on you, you're probably just going to be calling Jackery, because taking this thing apart and trying to address the inverter or the solar charge controller inside of this thing, I personally probably wouldn't rip this thing open and try addressing any of that on my own. Hopefully, either choice is just going to be reliable for you. So again, I'm not anti-gasoline generator, not at all. I own this one, obviously, and a couple others, but some of the cons, some of the huge cons with these are simply the noise. Even these quiet generators, they're still creating noise. There's a hum. Now, if you're in the pits at a racetrack or something, doesn't matter. There's Jennies running all over the place. You're not really there for a scenic nature tour or anything like that. But if you are off-grid camping, boondocking somewhere out in the wilderness, and you want to hear, you probably can't hear it right now, but I can hear birds chirping all over these woods right now. And you want to hear that and still run your camper? Well, you can easily do that silently. There's just no way to avoid the noise. Another con with gasoline generators is that you absolutely have to run them outside. And normally, that's not a big deal at all, especially in great weather. Plus, you can build little covers for them so the elements like rain don't affect them too much. But if you run out of gas in the middle of a night, if it's raining or if it's freezing cold, or you got 30 bears around your camper, well, you probably got bigger problems then. But yeah, it's just kind of a pain in the butt. You have to go outside to address any issues if it's running low on fuel or something like that. Again, solar generators, you just keep them inside. So the next major con for gasoline generators, especially the larger ones with like bigger fuel tanks that you would use to power an entire camper like this, are that you're gonna have to bring extra fuel. I like to do a lot of winter camping, and when I run this generator with a full tank of gas, I run my little space heater inside with a thermostat so it turns on and off as needed. Basically, I can run that whole thing in below freezing weather for about like 10 to 12 hours, give or take. And then I've got to refill the tank. So if I want to do 2-3 nights of cold weather off-grid camping, I'm going to have to bring many extra gallons of gasoline with you on a trip. So that's just, it's space, it's a very volatile liquid, so if you can charge via solar, that's just one more advantage for that. So I am going to contradict myself a little bit. With this Jackery 5000, obviously you can charge it off of solar, whatever. I do plan, when I am camping out here at our property in wild, wonderful West Virginia, to bring a very, very small quiet generator, but I can just run that for a couple hours, completely top off the battery, and then go put it away. So we will have some hum, but only for a couple hours, maybe midday, run it for an hour, like before bed, and you got a full tank of gas in this solar generator. Okay, so just to recap some of the pros for the solar generators, they can obviously be run indoors while you're using them. They're silent, they're extremely simple, they have a lot of protection built in, so if you surge this thing or you're getting close to empty, it does a good job of protecting itself with all the internal technology, including the solar charge controller on board. And yeah, you can charge it via solar. If you do have access to a solar array or solar up on top of your RV or deployable solar panels, you can recharge the unit silent and never bring any gas generators. Now, the cons are, obviously, you can't leave this thing out in the elements. I would trust this thing outside in a light drizzle, which is kind of what we're experiencing right now, more than I would trust this thing outside in a light drizzle, that's for sure. And then recharging, if you do need to take this thing from 10% up to 100% and it's a cloudy day like this, well, you're just gonna have to plug it into an AC source if you have one, or you're gonna have to run a gas generator to give it a full recharge really quick. So pros and cons. So yeah, this is kind of a janky setup, don't judge me, but here's our well. It runs about I don't know, like 275, 300 feet deep. And we've been using this, cheaper construction grade, really loud generator to run this well whenever we need to. And it's been nice to be able to run it off the Jackery. So I'm going to do just that. Now I did have to wheel the Jackery up over to the well because I don't have a long enough cord. But if you do have something like that, no worries. Now I can run this well silently. Oh, I'm an idiot. It's because I didn't turn the AC button on. Yeah, when you do want to access the AC ports, whether they are these 120 volts in front or the 240 volt on the side, you got to press this little AC button on the side. There we go. So it's outputting 1340 watts, and for whatever reason you got to run 240 volt for that. So I am not an electricity expert, but we're running our well silently. There's the faintest hum of a fan that I basically can't even hear. There you go, running the well, 240 volt, easy day. So this is kind of a pro or a con, depending on how you look at it. Again, this thing is 134 pounds, and luckily I ate a lot of brown sugar cinnamon Pop-Tarts as a kid, so I grew up big and strong, and I can handle this no problem. But I easily get this up to the top step. And roll it right in. So inside my toy hauler, I like to put this thing right in the corner. It's out of the way, and then I can lock these wheels right here, and then I can easily run my shore power cord from the unit. I do have to use this little adapter plug. These are cheap on Amazon, only for a few bucks, to get this TT30R receptacle. I just plug her into the side right here, and then I can run my shore power cord down through this nifty little hatch that just pops open, and then I can close it, and you have a small little opening right here for any cords. So great for the wintertime, keep the bugs out, all that kind of stuff. And then I can run the entire camper off of shore power. All right, here we go. Just a quick little demonstration of running a space heater. So I right now have the unit turned on. If you want the screen to stay on full time, you just double tap the power button. I didn't really go over a lot of this stuff, but you've got a DC 12 volt outlet here, 10 amps. And you've got your USB outlets, USB-C, USB-A. You can run a laptop on them, no problem. Anything that you can run off direct current, you can obviously save energy, because when you're running the alternating current, you are running this pretty powerful inverter, which does have a parasitic draw. So right now, I've got a space heater plugged in. We're gonna blast this thing on full. So it's right now, it's on high. And we are currently drawing, as it builds here nice and slowly, 1800 watts, 1335, 1480. So about 1600 watts. This Jackery has a battery capacity of just a hair over 5,000 watt hours, or 5 kilowatts. Now, as is the case with any of these, you're not going to be able to use the entire battery bank, only about like 88%, so keep that in mind. But this can run the space heater on high for another 3.3, 3.4 hours. So obviously it doesn't take, or we don't need to run it that high that often. In the wintertime, when it's below freezing, I will run this sucker on eco mode, and I'll hook up a little thermostat. Well, it has an onboard thermostat, and you can set whatever heat you want. So this thing will just turn on and off as needed. And even in the wintertime, I can run this thing all night long on a single charge using this thing here. So not a bad way to get heat into your RV or your tent or your whatever. Obviously, you can use your onboard furnace for that as well. In conclusion here, a solar generator of this size and output capacity is probably overkill for a lot of people. If you do not need the 240 volt capabilities, Jackery, EcoFlow, Blue Eddy, Anchor, they all offer smaller units that are still compatible with an RV with a 30 amp TT30R plug. So you can run your AC, your microwave, anything on the RV. They have expansion battery packs. Those units are also a little bit cheaper. So I kind of went all in because you can use this thing everywhere. Home backup power and all that. So for my needs, this was a great choice, but you can get away with a cheaper version and still do all of this off-grid camping. One of my criticisms for the Jackery Explorer 5000 Plus is going to be the charging speeds. There's essentially only two options. You can only charge it on the quiet setting or like the full go setting. Quiet is somewhere around like 1300 watts and you really just can't hear it at all. And then the faster charging mode is at about like 1800 watts, give or take. So you can charge this thing up pretty quick from like a wall outlet or another generator, a couple hours, but I would like to see different charging stages. So for example, this Anker Solix C1000 that I have, you can go into the app, which this has an app as well, where you can use functionality on it, turn things on, turn things off, whatever. You can set that Anker to charge anywhere between 200 watts up to 1300 watts and in 100 watt increments between. So I wish there was a little bit more customization for the different charging speeds for this specific model. Another kind of super slight criticism I have is when you charge this thing with solar, you've got two options, like the lower voltage and higher voltage charging options. Again, this thing's primarily made for like home backup power. It's not perhaps the ideal model for RV camping. So if you are carrying with you deployable solar panels, it uses an 8mm plug. I wish it used the XT60. I have no reason for that other than it's just personal preference. And then you can use the traditional solar plugs on the side if you have a much higher voltage. I think you need like a minimum of 160 volts. So you're probably at like 10 maybe panels or so. But you can charge this thing really fast on solar, but you're kind of limited between the two different connections and then like the voltage options that you have. Another criticism I have is the lack of a TT30R plug on the side. So like I said, I've got to use this small adapter when I do plug it into my RV. No big deal. That thing was like $6, but it's just, it's an outlet that I think they should have included instead of the 50 amp plug. But again, adapters are cheap and they weren't probably targeting the RV market with the 5000 plus. Some of their smaller units were more likely intended for RVs, and those have TT30R plugs on them. Last really tiny criticism I have of the Jackery 5000 is that there's no light on board, not even like a small one on the front. You're not using this thing as a flashlight, obviously, but it would be nice to be able to just turn on a light. You can fill the room with light during a power outage or inside your camper. And I think a really cool idea would be to build in a very durable 360-degree light around the rim of this thing. It could be a nice soft glow and you could light up the entire general area right around the Jackery 5000. So I wish I had a light. So final conclusion point for like the 2 or 3 people that are even still watching this video. Again, I'm not knocking gasoline generators. I think they all have their place and they're all great options. I just really love the silent feature. So definitely shop around, consider what like size you need for you, but I highly recommend the 5000. It's been great to me so far.